Back to the basics. From the beginning of the beginning, when sentient beings are born and start to evolve, there's a rule or law of nature that start to function. The law of nature has been always with us from the beginningless of the beginning till the end of the end, because that's the definition of law of nature. And we cannot go beyond that. But as a part of that, we are born after something happened in the universe, sun, earth, water, or the minerals, and in some combination, we are born. The principle there is that from the big data, if you want to use the AI analogy, if we have enough data or element that can be combined in some way or the other, that can produce life and evolution. That's law of nature. And the AI is sort of imitating that, although I view it's still limited. But we are starting to tap into it by knowing how the brain functions and coming down to this notion of synthesizing the element to come up with idea. You can call this as an experiential process because it happened in every moment. That process of law of nature to manifest. Now, if we jump into us human being, having the brain, we start to use the brain, and that is another universe than what we have had before in our body. In the brain, there's that limbic system functioning, and the cortex being added as human, and we are moving forward. The size of the brain and the function of the brain has been changing and evolving, and as a result of it, as if coming out of the Garden of Eden, we ate the fruit of knowledge, and we are to use that in our brain or mind. But the use of that, you can see it is beyond the law of nature, because it's a new platform to play with those information we gather from outside and inside, and somehow choose a passage into the future. And as we are born as a baby and growing, and we went through lots of mistakes, we can barely breathe and start to breathe, and we start to make a mistake and explore, and for example, walking or crawling, and we make a mistake. And out of that we learn experientially what works and what not. And along with that process of learning, we develop the habit. Whether it's good or bad habit, given the information, we come up with that habit to make the most of the situation, and then we grow. So that's the eating the fruit of the knowledge, and think that's something we can play with, so we keep exploring. But the feeding part of the knowledge may be limited depending upon the circumstance. So information coming in changes, and accepting and adjusting takes place. And along with it, is the development habit and the way that we think it's going to make sense using our mind. Good and bad, beautiful, ugly, all of that would help use the mind to live better. So we learn to survive in the cold winter and hot summer, and inventing the fire, tools, and all of that, including even the computer algorithm, AI, imitating how the nature is taking place. We are learning all of that information and come up with the answer with the mind, and also now with the use of the computer and AI going forward. But if we look at the basic structure of the process, how things are happening, let's get back to the basics. The basic is to connect to the source of that evolutionary process, law of nature, how we are utilizing all the element to synthesize, come up with the idea. So that's nature's way. In human way, I like to use the word, or perhaps compare the idea of the intuition and concept. Intuition is based upon accumulation of the information element knowledge. And when your mind is calm and quiet, do nothing, accept everything as it is, not using the mind, then we go deeper into that structure so that this evolutionary process can take place on its own. That's the wisdom, that's the creativity. That's how we come up with the idea to evolve and move forward. So the intuition by itself may not work perfect all the time. It's like AI is teaching computer learn how to play Go. And they learn this and try it, and they make a mistake, they learn again and try it. So based upon the knowledge accumulated way of intelligence, synthesizing what we have experienced or the computer have experienced, we come up with the best solution, and you try it again, and you fail, and you learn from those experiences to keep on evolving. So that's how the computer start to learn play Go game. But as human, we are going through the same from the young childhood. This reference, that reference, parents reference, friends reference, reading books, addition of this experience, and practicing it, learning from it, and all of that process is like an AI. And the point of the intuition and the concept is that concept by itself is dead. It's knowledge. By itself, it doesn't do any good. Knowledge into action is the question. And obviously, action may bring in more problems because you cannot succeed all the time. So go back again. I call PDCA plan to check act, starting from check what's going on and develop a plan and acting upon it, and then figure out what happened, and check what happened, and then learn and keep on going. In a Buddhist term, this is not in the mind but connected to the root of who we are, called Sila Samadhi Panya. PDCA plan to check act plan do is more into the mind to figure out what to do given the information. But if you look at the whole structure, whole being of who we are, it's not just in the mind, but there's a vast database that we have gathered and stays somewhere in unconscious. So to get there and synthesize those information, as in the case of the AI deep learning, we have to quiet the mind and let the nature to take place to come up with the idea. And the idea, the creative thought, all of that may manifest in different manners. That's the intuition, given what we want. With that orientation, we picture what could be done. Like an AI would have an objective function and let the computer to scan through all the information from the big data. Meditation, like I'm more familiar with the Vipassana, but all the meditation is meant to do that, to quiet the mind, or prayer to quiet the mind. No mind, empty-mindedness, meaning going down deeper into your unconscious. And when we maintain that, like if we don't know what to do, just don't do anything, that's a no action, ue, meditation, prayer, quiet mind. With that, something happens. It's not mind-driven, but more from the experience-driven, from the knowledge and the energy of the universe, so to speak, or the law of the universe, or the nature, to self-organize itself. And that's the intuition. And the intuition may come out in the case of the artist or musician in their product or a service. Wisdom. So that's the process I see, and therefore going back to the base means to know that structure so that we navigate using the brain or the mind, but also listening to the heart, the base, the core of our being, where the universe, the law of the universe manifests. Then comes the wisdom, what to do. So it's an eternal process of progression, so to speak. As a living being, we're trying to tap into the source to find the solution and implement it. That's the right conduct you figure out at the time, given the situation, and trying, experiencing, practicing it. And then, obviously, there's a limitation, and the new information, new environment may create more difficulty. Then, as in the case of AI and deep learning, we just go back to what's the new experience, what happened, why, and what can be done. That part is connected to the root of our being, not just in the mind space, because mind itself has a limitation in the cortex area to process, but doing that only in the cortex would not utilizing the basis of our construct, where all the history of our growth and experience is stored in our body and limbic system and the unconscious part of our brain and our being. So the intuition is from the source, but that may not address all the potential issues, the environment that we may fall into. So you have to check how it can be done, also from the cortex, the brain point of view. That's the knowledge base and all of that. This is a tricky subject, but I'm trying to capture the essence of our being and the process of our life and finding the passage to find our destiny. And this is not the one-shot deal, it's a continuous process of PDCA, CAPD, Sila Samadhi Panya for evolution. Thank you.